Hey everybody, it's Brick Waffle, and today I'm going to try to build a treehouse here. This is not a tutorial, this is going to be a let's build. So I'm going to experiment a little bit on camera here, see if you guys get some ideas for something that might help you out in your series. I'm going to try and not use anything that would be too crazy to get in survival, since this is something that people have requested in the past on the Minecraft forums. But I am going to build in creative, that way if I don't like something it's pretty easy to change. So I found these two trees out in the jungle, and I thought this is perfect. They have a nice even roof line here. There's some natural platforms for different houses, different levels of the house, and then we have our natural ladders, which is this vine here. One of the things we always want to keep in mind with the treehouse is how we're going to get in and out of it. And vines work fairly well, but if a creeper detonates somewhere nearby and blows up your vines, it's just the same as ladders. You're going to have some issues. And since this is wood, any creepers down here are going to cause a lot of damage to the foundation of your trees anyhow. So to get started, let's actually go ahead and get some jungle wood. I'm assuming that if you're doing this in survival, you'd be using that kind of material anyway. So we're going to get some slabs, some stairs, and some planks. And the other thing that's very common with tree houses is trapdoors, and we might actually want to replace some real ladders. And then of course we're going to want some torches, some fence posts, fence gates, and probably not doors. We'll see about doors when we get up there. So one thing that we want to do is look at the platforms we're going to use. I like these little areas where there's a branch sticking out as a platform for more building. So I'm actually going to clear off some of this. And there's two ways we can go about this. One, we can clear it off like this and use that as the foundation, a branch kind of holding up that level. The other thing we can do is use that branch as the roof line and give it kind of a canopy on which to sit the rest of what we're doing. So in this case, I'm going to take that block out and I'm just going to put some planks out here like this. And we're going to connect up to the tree right here. We don't want these platforms to be very big. It's going to be a little unbelievable if we have giant houses hanging off the side of a tree with no real support. I don't know if that matters to you or not, but at least for me in Minecraft, I kind of like to have things that sort of make a little bit of sense. That platform's still pretty large, but hopefully once we have a better structure somewhere else, that'll make more sense. And I think that's going to be better to have the branch that kind of sticks out here. In fact, I'm going to make this tree artificially a little larger and stick these logs out this way to kind of give it some sense of support. We'll do the same thing over here. And we'll probably end up coming out the same way. We have a couple branches coming out in different directions. So it starts out as a nice organic tree, but then we're going to add to it quite a bit. So we'll do the same thing. And now I know the trick with this is you're not going to be able to put anything on these half slabs because they're on top of a block, but we can fix that too when we get to a later stage. So that one can come out a little bit more than that. There we go, a couple of little platforms here. With this one here, I'm actually going to use that as a roof line, so I'm going to come down, let's see, 1, 2, 3 blocks, and then at the top of the fourth one, so we will be able to place things. We're just going to come out, like this. Pretty much directly across. As much roof as we have there. That's looking pretty good. Let's come out one more. And let's use this one as another support platform. This will be kind of our landing here. Actually, I'm going to leave some of those leaves in at this point. So probably what we'll end up doing with this is using this as kind of a stairway to get between these different platforms to get up to the top area. I think that'll look pretty good when we're here. So this will be a very functional first landing. I think we can actually afford to extend this a little bit. And then we're going to probably want to start using some stairs here as well, so that looks like a perfect spot to do that. Here we're going to do the same sort of thing we've been doing. We're just going to put another little platform here. It's going to be another similar landing to what we've done before. So we're going to take this out. Same sort of thing here. And we're going to use that for some stairs. And then we'll figure out where we're going to come with this landing. Probably we're going to want to come around this a little bit. So let's start putting that kind of stairwell, and we'll do a step stair here. Put that in. Oops. Okay, so that's a little bit unusual looking, and actually I don't like the look of that now. Might have to do something about that. So far we've got access up to this upper level. We've got our natural roof line there, stairs connecting. Now we have to connect these two platforms. This first one over here should be pretty easy. We're just going to put in some stairs, and we'll do the same thing there. So now we've got some stairs to connect. And then how do we get from the lower level? Let's see, we need to come over here and figure out how we're going to do that. So probably right here. Is that going to be walkable? Yeah, it's a little awkward looking, but it'll work for now. And another one like that. So now we can walk straight up here, up to those platforms. That's looking good. This part is a little bit tricky, so I'm going to take some of that out. I don't want to do too much with that because I kind of like the look of it. That means we need to connect these two platforms somehow. And I think the easiest thing to do would just be to come straight across and then figure out where we want to go up into this other platform. Probably partway through that. So let's try that out. Oops. There we go. Nice little platform. So we're all connected up. That's kind of the basis of what we wanted to do. So all those pieces are connected. We still have our main roof line. This can actually be quite a bit bigger. But we also now want to think about where we're going to put things that we're actually going to build on. So any of these levels where the block is at the bottom half, like this one, we're not going to be able to place anything on, or it's going to float. It's going to look a little strange. This one here, we are going to be able to place things on. So this is going to be the primary level. We could also change these up. Nothing says they have to connect like that. We could also just move this whole thing up one level, like that. And then if we want to do that, we probably want to move our stairs as well. So we do that landing, and let's see, that one. And then we'd want to come up a level. And that's actually going to make this other floor look a lot easier anyway. So let's come across here. Yeah, let's take all that out. So on these two branches, we're just going to use the half slabs to kind of build up a little bit so that it looks like it's still resting on that branch. And that's going to solve several of our problems at once. And then we're actually going to bring this other platform down so it's at the same level. Should we go down or up one? Let's go up one. I like the idea of having different levels in the treehouse. So same issue as we had over there. We're just going to add some planks there, some slabs rather, to fill that space up. Looks like it has some support. Take that out. One thing we could do is just replace these with some logs. That looks a little bit better. Yeah, let's do that. And then we're going to want some stairs to connect these two pieces. And we don't need, oops, let's not fall. We don't need these slabs underneath those stairs anymore. So that looks a little bit better and it's functional. I think this is already functional. No, it's not. So we're going to have to do the same thing again. And here that's going to be a little bit trickier because of the way we have our stairs. So we're going to need to have one more set of stairs like this, and then bring our slabs off of that level. Oops. Let's keep all the slabs over the branches that we created. And that's why this is not going to be a tutorial, because it's just not going to make sense to do that. We're going to want to be able to bring these designs forward and change things around. Doing a tutorial like this, if you're trying to follow along and build it yourself, not really what this is designed for. It's more for inspiration. I wish you the best of luck if you're trying to copy this design, since you probably won't have these exact trees. It's going to be a little challenging. The idea here is just to give you some ideas. So that works pretty well, but now this doesn't line up as easily. So let's actually do, let's see, I don't like that either. Let's do that, and then that. So I think what we can do is just put some stairs here. And I'm making these a little wider than they need to be, but that's alright. It's going to look okay when we're all done. Oops. Oops, let's try that. Okay, so now I think we're actually getting closer on having something that's functional and still looks good, still has that same idea. So this is going to be, like I said, kind of reinforced onto the log. I don't want anything to be floating in the air, and I do want it to be functional. Some of them I'm okay with, like maybe this balcony is just here to look out. The only challenge is going to be when we start trying to put fences on, that's still going to be a problem. So let's go ahead and fix that one as well. Let's put one more stair up here. And take out everything that's not on one of those logs. Oops. That's actually looking pretty good. Let's bring this one out a little bit. Now, one thing that you can do is you can actually round these off a little bit. It means you don't have to have perfectly square platforms. You can have something that looks a little bit different. The further you go from the tree, though, the more unbelievable that's going to be. So let's try just something like that. That's pretty straightforward. It's not exactly round, but when you're dealing with a small surface in Minecraft, it's going to be hard to make anything actually look round. Those are landings. I'm not concerned with that. And those should already be placeable. So I think we've got a pretty good start for a treehouse. This is going to be pretty safe. The disadvantage to building something you can actually place things on like this is that mobs will also be able to spawn there, so we're also going to have to consider light. Although tree light, I'll have to say, with torches and whatnot at night, looks usually pretty good. Next thing we want to do is have some easy access to different areas. So since mobs cannot spawn on these trees, we're not as concerned with being able to have them get onto our base. But we might want to have a couple of security layers on the way down. Let's actually try to have a couple of things here. Oops. Let's do one more of those kind of spiral staircase looking things. Let's do that. Let me do that. Is it under it? Yeah, it's under it. Okay, so let's just do that. And we'll bring this down a little bit more. We don't want to go all the way down to ground level, otherwise we kind of lose some of that treehouse appeal. But that gives us one more place to kind of put a platform across both of these things, and this will be the main area when you first get into the treehouse, maybe the guest area, your lobby. It's where you can keep some of your equipment when you're getting ready to go out and have a little bit of an adventure. You want to be able to get to your treehouse, get some basic things immediately. This is going to be like that first room in your basic survival house. The downsides to building a treehouse are it can be very difficult to find storage space, so we're going to see about fixing some of that. And then we also have to avoid the temptation to do what this is looking like it's going to end up as, which is to just build a square house that happens to have 2 trees in it. Alright, I think that's going to be okay, though. So one thing we're going to be careful about, besides falling, which is why we're in creative, is when we butt up against another tree, we could take all these leaves out, but when we do, we're going to end up with some strange-looking trees, so we're going to want to do a little landscaping here. Make that look a little bit more natural, and then take a few out here and there. That's probably better. Now, I did mention earlier monsters cannot spawn on these leaves, but in a jungle in particular, a zombie could spawn in the dark, walk his way up a tree, and then just simply walk into your house. You don't want to have that happen, so that's probably as good as we're going to want to go. That's actually looking to be pretty big right now. I know I did say this was something you could do in survival. I didn't say how quickly, so this is probably not something you're going to do in your first night. Although if you're taking down jungle trees, then you will have plenty of materials for this. Let's just set it to daytime again. It's starting to get a little dark. Now, as far as access to this treehouse goes, obviously the easiest thing to do is just drop a trapdoor in a couple of places and throw some ladders in. Oops. So if we do it that way, you're not going to be able to have the ladder. You're going to have to put it opening up, so it won't quite be flush with the floor. But that way you can put a ladder piece below it and still walk up and down. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you have, vines growing somewhere, you can always use those as an emergency access, but that's why we want to be careful here to put a lip on this base. If you're trying to do this in a PvP survival world, well, don't, because it's just somebody's just going to set it on fire. But if you were trying to keep your base out just to keep other people from walking in a way you didn't anticipate to make sure they see the full effect, you don't want to let them just climb up some vines and go inside. Alright, so that works. Let's leave those open for now so we can see the hatch. Everything else, once we're up here, is in stairs. I think that's fine. And the next thing we're going to want to do is make sure we have some safety ledges. So we don't want anything that's one wide unless you particularly like having that kind of scary looking ledge. Let's go ahead and put some stairs over here. And let's bring this out. Personally, I like to have these, I like to have these walkways be a little bit bigger, like this. This one wide that goes up here is probably okay, since it's just going up to this lookout. It can be kind of the narrow, scary stair. But most of this I want to keep a little bit wider so we can have some light and that sort of thing. So fences are your next best thing. That's going to be what we use for a lot of our walls. Now this area out here, if we leave it just like this, it doesn't really make sense to have that at all. So I'm just going to take this back out, and then I'm going to put that piece of tree that I took out back. This takes up a little bit of your footprint, so if you wanted to put your fences on the outside, you certainly could. And again, same thing over here. Doesn't really make sense to have these if you're going to have just fence posts out there anyhow. So let's just ignore that, bring this around. Let's go ahead and put one more back there and put a fence post on it. I think that looks a little bit better. And here we need to bring that floor out a little bit. I don't need that one, although I like the look of that a little bit better. Now as far as the stairs go, you can have a couple of things. You can bring your platform out even further and have stairs that have a rail right up to them, which is what I'm going to do on this first floor because this is supposed to be our big floor. Okay, and I don't like how unsupported this looks, especially coming off the side of those trees, so let's bring a couple of branches out this way. And we'll do the same thing over here. And then we need to put some slabs on top of that so it doesn't look like it's just floating above the branch. It looks like it's connected to it. And the same thing on this side. That looks a little bit more supported. Oops, don't need that. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and put torches on this side so we can keep the area where our ladders are fairly well lit. It's not going to be bright enough to keep things from spawning like that, so let's just put some torches right down here close to ground level. And that's like a pretty decent. Alright. Now up here, doing stairs or fences or any kind of railing next to stairs with floating fence posts looks a little silly to me. You can do that. I think it's okay, but this gap here is just kind of strange looking. It's easier with stairs, like stone stairs and cobble walls. They tend to stick together a little bit better. But here I think what we want to do is probably just bring out a couple of branches to give this something to rest on. That looks okay there. And then we want to do something similar over on this side. So let's bring out a branch this way. And then let's bring up another one here so it looks like it's kind of one big branch. And up here on these landings, I think we can afford to just put a few more of those planks out. Now again, every time we do that, I want to put some planks on the branches to make it look like it's supported. Actually, I don't want that one there. Let's just bring that out one more. And then bring that out one. That's going to look pretty good. And that'll give us a little bit of support. Yeah, that should work. So now we can, oops, I did not anticipate that one as correctly. I don't want to do that either. Alright, so let's see about that. What can we do? Well, we could just bring this out a little bit more, and that would actually work pretty well. Let's do that, and then our fence posts. So that one is a little bit floating, but I think it's okay. It's got enough reinforcement. Let's actually do the same thing over here. I think that's all right to have a couple of them like that. You guys have to tell me what you think about this. Oops, don't need that one. You know, I think I'm going to end up making a lot of this a little bit wider so that we have a little bit more room. The stairs line up pretty nicely. Let's go ahead and do that now. And that gives us a nice little look out into this desert. So that's pretty good. We just need to do some interiors and this last lookout area. Obviously, anywhere you're up against a tree, you don't need to do anything. But we might just want to put something there, or in this case, I think what I'm going to do is just put a plank there, and we can use that space for something else. Over here, we're going to want some kind of ladders. or sorry, fence posts. So let's go ahead and put in some planks. Keep calling those planks, those are slabs. All right. And we'll do the same thing as we did on this side. We'll just bring this out one. Let's see. And that's looking pretty good. Let's set the time back to daytime. And down here, I like this so far. I actually am going to put in one more slab there just to cover that up. And this side is actually looking pretty good. We are going to have to do something with this. That was supposed to originally be, oops, I actually want to keep that, a secondary access point. So let's leave that as is. And then we'll just need to do something about securing that one. So let's go ahead and bring that out. All right. And I don't like that being right in the middle of the walkway, so let's go ahead and bring this along the side as well. And that's a nice little tucked in area. I think that's looking pretty good. So coming back down here to the main floor, we're all tucked in here. We've got fences everywhere. Fences up here. Both of those walkways are good. That walkway up to that balcony is good. And this is the one we talked about at the beginning that we were thinking about leaving exposed like this. And then maybe just having some kind of balcony. You can do a couple of things. You can have floating rails. I'm not a fan. I mean, I guess you could connect them all off like this and have them kind of hanging over the side. I think I'm actually just going to do what I've been doing and make this a little bit bigger. And more rectangular, I know. And that way we can put in some fences up here. And I think that'll be okay. So we have one kind of dangerous area, but if you fall off of this, mostly you're going to fall onto this tree or out there. This side is a little bit scary, but again, if you fall, you're likely to just hit the side there, so it's probably not something that's going to kill you. I definitely want to keep a lot of these leaves in. I think that looks pretty good. So the next step is going to be to light everything up. And I need to get some torches again. And we'll start from the top and kind of work our way down. So one thing that I like to do, especially with fence posts, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen before, is just put them in the corners. Usually provides a pretty good amount of light. And let's go ahead and set time, set night. And that should be plenty. We can double check here. Just I hit F3 and look at the block light level. And I think we're going to be okay on how much light we have for purposes of spawning. That's definitely okay with 10. This sort of thing, we can put a torch on the corner. Or we can also just put a torch on the tree, which I think is going to look better. And block light there is 11. That's going to be fine. Let's just put another one right here. That's going to be okay. And then on this side, we're just going to do, oops, I missed a fence post again. We're going to do some torches right here when we get to the top of the stairs. And one over here in this corner. It looks like we've got plenty of block light over here. Let's go ahead and go up the rest of this side first. So we're going to come up here, oops, and put a torch there. And then we're going to put one up here, I think. Let's go ahead and take that. I don't think we're going to need that one. That corner. Let's put one up on here, and then on these two, and on that one. So that's plenty of light up here. Down here, we're going to put them on the corners again, and where we have our stair transitions. This area is looking a little dark, so I'm going to put one right there. That should be okay. Put one on the tree, and on this corner. Do we have any spots that are kind of dark over here? No, that looks all right. Down here, we're going to use this corner, and let's see, right here before the stairs. This corner, right there on the stairs. Let's double check those light levels. It's looking all right. We got a 9 in there somewhere, but I think that's on a stair anyway. And then down here, it's going to get very dark very quickly. So we're going to want to put a torch above our trapdoors, and obviously in our corners. And I'm got a weird block here. Oh, it's supposed to be there. All right. Don't need one in that corner. That would be kind of strange. Put them on that corner. What else do we have? Anything in the middle here? That looks like we're lit up sufficiently. Okay, great. So let's take a fly out here, and that is a basic look at our treehouse. It's going to be very easy to spot from anywhere you are in this jungle or even the desert away. You'll be able to see that at night very easily. It actually looks pretty good from a distance. So the next thing is, you're going to want some actual shelter here somewhere. Not all of this is going to make sense with having just open exposed areas. You're going to want some place to put a bed and not get rained on. And so for that, we can use a couple of things. We can add more leaves here. So with this example, we can actually just bring these leaves over. And I know in survival, you're not going to be able to do this without shears, but those are fairly easy to get. I'm not going to be concerned about that sort of thing. Oops, let's bring that post up. And let's just do a little bit more of a frame here on the corners. And I know you don't need this to hold the bushes up, but I think that looks a little bit better. Now we've got a balcony that looks pretty decent. We don't want to do the same trick everywhere, so over here we're going to leave this as an exposed balcony. Maybe this one will be an exposed balcony. We've got to put a roof on a few of these, so we're just going to take that same kind of corner design idea. We're going to make a couple of these a little bit taller. And here I'm going to switch to a different kind of wood just because it's going to look a little bit strange if we use the same kind of wood for everything. And here, I'm not real happy with the way that turned out. Let me just take that out and see how it looks. I know we've got jungle slabs, but hopefully at this point you'll be far enough along in the game. In this case, I think we do have some dark oak forests somewhere nearby. There's also savanna over there, and that's going to be fairly common in a jungle. So let's use some acacia wood here. And let's use some slabs and also some logs. Let's try moving that torch out. I'm just bringing this over first. Yeah, I think that's going to look pretty decent. So when you're building with logs like this, it's going to be tricky to pick a direction and stick with it so that the textures all line up. It's not going to look like a natural tree area. It's not supposed to. This is supposed to look like you're roofing it in, so that's probably okay. Let's go ahead and build this out and see what it looks like. I'm not super thrilled with that, but I think it'll do okay for now. I am going to put this platform back in, and I'm not excited about that. Let's put this fence post over here. I think that's going to be the same issue we had before. Technically, you could fall down there. I just prefer the look of that rather than the kind of big lattice work on the side. Obviously, if you're building this yourself, do whatever you think looks better. That does present a bit of a safety issue, or potentially, if you're shooting skeletons or whatever, it gives you a good vantage point. So now we've got a roof over here, and you'll see some vines will grow on that. That's pretty cool. This is going to give us a natural shelter already. And then down here, I think we've got most of our natural shelter from this set of leaves, but let's do the same thing we did on one of those balconies earlier. Let's just bring this out some. And then we'll just bring up some fence posts to support it. Make it look more like this was intended to be a roof that we brought around. Let's go ahead and use this corner one as well. And that looks a little bit strange, so let's bring this out some and make it look a little bit more natural. That looks a little bit better. So I think the mix of wood slabs there and some natural leaf cover, that's going to give us some overhead roof that we like. Same thing over here, we're going to have some that's covered up and some that's exposed. I think that's probably also okay. If you'd prefer, you can obviously stick some leaves in here. That's not going to be a big deal. And here I think what we want to do is just kind of make these a little bit less even so that it kind of looks like it was naturally generated as part of the tree. Yeah, I think that's going to look a little bit better. That gives us a pretty fair amount of cover. I think that actually gives us, yeah, every square of that is now covered from rain, so that looks good. And that's more or less it. So let's take a look at what we can do for furnishing. Obviously, you've got your standard stuff here. Let's just clear my inventory. You're going to want to put a bed in somewhere. That's great. If I'm in a treehouse, I like to go up near the top for my bed. Maybe this little side path over here. And this covered area, I think, is going to be great for a little bedroom. So we're just going to stick this bed in this corner. That's going to be good. Yeah. Let's put a crafting table here as well. At the foot of the bed. Nah, it looks bad. Leave that alone. Actually, this is a good spot for a crafting table. And that's exactly what we're trying to figure out what to do with earlier. Maybe we can even put another torch there on top of it. Give us plenty of room. So that's a good way to have a nice little spot. Gives us a balcony to look out for and defend our treehouse. We could put some storage up here. We could put some crafting tables, chests, whatever you wanted. I'm actually going to go ahead and put some furnaces up here, since that's usually what we're going to do. Oh no, we're not going to do that. That looks pretty terrible. Let's come back over here and try that on one of the lower levels. I think what I want to do is tuck those in over on this side. Yeah, I'm going to be a lot happier with that, I think. So we're going to just bring this over, see if I can bring that log down a little bit. That's better. And then that looks pretty natural. So we can have our furnaces. We could even have a double furnace array. I like that. Gives us a little place to smelt some things. And down here, we're going to have that first open area. So this is where you'd want to put your furniture in. Whatever furniture designs you normally use. I know oak furniture is pretty common. With this much wood in our designs, we can try a couple of things like sign chairs and item frame chairs, depending on how much leather we have access to. So let's talk about, let's see. Here's a little couch on the first level. We can even do one of the piston tables if you like those ideas. Anything we do over here on the sides is going to be a little bit strange because it's going to be right up against wood and it's going to let you run right over your sides. So be careful when you do these that you don't just run right out of your house. But I think that actually looks pretty decent. So storage. Where are we going to put our storage? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You could, if you wanted to, cut into this tree trunk here and put in some upside down stairs, that sort of thing, put some storage in. We also have a pretty good opportunity to put some storage in right here if we wanted to and have it still be something we can open, or even on top of these things. Actually, now that we have that, I think this looks a little bit unusual here. Oops, let's bring those fences across. And then let's just go ahead and bring those in. I think that looks a little bit better now. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So chests you can kind of stick in. Here's a good place for a chest. If you don't have a huge amount of storage, something like an ender chest here or there, you can stick one of those in. Regular chest. And you can put those on top. Obviously those will still work. So that's one way to do it. I'm going to take that chest out though. On this upper lookout area here, this area could also have some chests on it. You know, a lot of this is just going to be a good place to kind of look out and get a view of your land and see where you want to go. I still like the idea of doing something up here with chests. So one thing we could do is we could take out some of these fences and put chests there, or we can actually take advantage of the fact that we just put in that layer. Where are some stairs here? So we can actually use this roof that we had and just put some chests on it. And I don't like that either. Let's see what that looks like from a distance, and then we'll decide whether we want to keep it or not. Yeah, that's okay. I think it's functional, and that's probably more important at this point. But doing chests like this is going to be a little bit, like I said, it's going to be a little bit tricky. Let's do that and that. And then we'll have one there. That's probably all right. So that's really the basis of this treehouse. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Please do let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see something smaller, like just a very basic, I need a 5x6 treehouse, I'm in an oak forest and it's not very tall, and I just want to cut down a couple trees and have a shelter, I'd be happy to do that too. Although, to be quite honest, I think a treehouse is not a good idea for your first survival building, just because in order to get all these fence posts and torches and things to make it look like a treehouse and not just like you stuck a house in a tree, that's a little bit trickier to do. I hope you found this useful. If you like this video, please do leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, please go ahead and make it a favorite. If you want to see more from me, please do subscribe. Every time I get a subscriber, it makes me very motivated to do more of these videos, and I really am enjoying this so far. I want to keep doing more YouTube videos. If you have a suggestion for a video you'd like me to see me do in the future, please absolutely leave that in the comments. I want to be very responsive to what you guys are looking for. And as always, I've been Brick Waffle. Thank you for watching.